All right, let's see if it's working. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for Outlander Book Club, for the Outlander Readalong, whatever I'm calling it. I don't know. But for the last 6 weeks, we were hopefully reading Voyager. Hopefully, more of you finished it than me. I sadly stopped right at part 7. Am I at part 7, probably? Yes, I made it up to part 7, but my life just got a little too hectic. And I just had to tap it out and be like, it's okay. I don't have to stress myself out. Because yesterday I had a choice, everyone. I had a choice whether to read a couple hundred pages or whether to binge San Mariano, and I picked the other choice. So sorry about that. But sometimes you just
Back
need
to
it.
Mateo.
I know, it's great. It's great. Yeah, one of my friends is reading it for the first time, and I was like, oh, it's been 4 years. I haven't read it in 4 years. So she was saying stuff, and I was like, oh, I don't remember. I need to reread these. So, God, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's fucking good. Yeah, it's just the best. It's wild. But hello, everybody. Well, while we wait just a little bit, because it'll be tough for everyone, what are you guys reading today? I know maybe you, well, I know Steph just finished this one, so she's not reading something else, but what are you guys reading today while we wait for people to show up and then we'll get started?
Go ahead, Amber.
I am just almost done. I was trying to finish it before the live show, but that Kate C. Wells' new book, I'm trying to remember, it's After the Shut Up Ring. I was trying to remember the whole name. I was like, I can't remember. So I'm almost done with that. And then I got to go into Jagger Cole's arc for the next one. So I know you're not doing the arcs anymore. Did you read the last book, Jen?
No, I didn't get to it.
Okay.
I was going to read it during the readathon if I had time,
Yeah.
but I did. That's okay, because I'll binge his
Yeah.
pretty quick once I do. And yeah, I don't know. I've only read the first one in that series, and then I was like, I'll just let him go because he's writing one a month currently, and I'm just
I
like,
don't know
I
how
am
he
done
writes
with
that
that.
many. I don't know how he writes that fast.
I don't know either. I don't know. Daniela said that he was on a podcast, which I still need to watch. I still need to listen to, and he's going to be revealing himself soon. Like he's going to go
Oh,
to a
wow.
book signing and like reveal who he is. So
Yeah.
hopefully I can like get an interview with him once he's like, because I
That'd
mean, if
be
he's
cool.
doing podcasts, he's obviously, I mean, I could have him on and do, I've done authors who want
Yeah.
to show themselves before, but I have really, really, really wanted to interview a male romance author, and there aren't too many of them that don't write gay romance, which is totally fine. But I was like, I think it's interesting when men are writing and they're writing MF because they get a lot of shit for that sometimes. And I'm like, they're half of a relationship too, you know, most of the time. So I like hearing guys' perspectives on it. And you know, we sometimes wonder like what kind of heroes do the ladies have in their lives that write. I want to know what kind of wife a guy has who writes some of this stuff. You know, like that's the kind of stuff I randomly question people. But Becky, what are you reading?
I haven't read anything today, really. I finished a book for the historical romance readathon.
Yeah.
And that's all I read today.
Which book did you read? Sorry, did I just...
It was a very short, like 58-minute novella called Carnally Ever After by an author I'd never heard of. But it was a smutty historical romance.
It's always good to get in.
But sometimes those are good. Well, I've basically just been reading Voyager today, but I'm also reading Abyss by Swati MH, which is a best friend's dad office romance one. That's going good. And then I'm planning to start Drunk on You tonight too, if all goes well, which is a fake fiance one or whatever. So that's what we're looking to do. Let's see. Karen. Hi, Karen. So glad you're here. I love your comments in the Discord. So thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. I was reading her comments today. They had lots of good stuff. I always get there like last minute. I don't know.
I know. Well, it also took me a while to do comments this time because I said on the last live show I was going to read it and then put questions up, and then I didn't start reading it. So I was like, so I was like, whatever, I'll come up with some questions. So there's this Reddit group that had done a read along like a few years ago, and they have great questions. So I usually like steal some of those or whatever. But I love Red Rising, Karen. I have read the first trilogy and then the book 4 as well, but then I kind of fell off. Those
Oh.
are great ones. Red Rising is so good. I really want to listen to, they're doing graphic audios of those. And that's a great one because it's like space battles. And like the first one is like a Hunger Games type one. And then they're like space battles after. Like, oh, so good. I'll fully admit I read those books because Pierce Brown is hot and I wanted to read his book because I was like, he's good looking. Don't know why, but you know. Authors aren't always the prettiest people out there. We know it. I respect it. It's okay. I'm also one of those that if I was, I'd be writing like a little gremlin, but he wrote a pretty cool book. Romancing Mr. Bridgerton. Love it. So glad. We'll refrain from conversations about that here, but I'm glad you're liking it. I want to reread the book too. It's been a long time, and that's probably my favorite one in this series. So. Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, nice. Crave by J.R. Ward. I just started Drums of Autumn. Ah, nice. Getting started on it. I love it. I love it. Just finished Stolen Mackenzie Bride by Jennifer Ashley. Oh, great. Keeping it Scottish. I love it. Let's do it for sure. I really liked in the last, since we've had the last one, I tried Samantha Young for the first time, and she has a Highland series. That's a contemporary one. And Shane East does a lot of the men. His Scottish voice is just so good.
Doesn't she have a book out, Something Thistle Beyond the Thistle?
Yeah, it's that series. I know she has a series that everybody loves that's on Dublin Street. That's the Irish series or something that people are trying to get me to read. I should cave. Now that I've read one of her books, I will definitely do it. But yeah, this one's a contemporary Scottish series, and there's like Among the Thistles, something with the heather. This one was, shoot, I just forgot what it was called. I don't know. The next one's going to be Northern Twilight or something, I know. So it's cool. I like it. But announcement that I'll put at the front and I'll remind us at the end. The next live show will be 2 months from now. It will be July 20th. So I'm giving us some time. I have a lot of summer stuff going on, so there's no need to rush with anything. But that's when Drums of Autumn will be. They're starting to get a little bigger now, too. Not that they weren't already huge. Yes, I acknowledge this, but they're going to be getting even bigger. We're not there yet. We're not there yet, but I love it so much. Candace loved On Dublin Street. All right, Candace, I got to give it a go. Candace is also
one of her adult books I've read.
Is it? Yeah, I like the current one. It was a Marriage of Convenience, and he's a farmer, a Scottish farmer. So I was feeling the vibes with it. It was good. Chickens and sheep, and I was here for it. So Candace is also reading Morelli right now, Amber. She's reading it for the first time. So that's making me happy. Okay.
I love Mateo.
Yes, he's the best. He's so wild. Okay, so I have my questions on my phone. We are going to get started with this. I was saying before people popped on, I promise we're not going to go beat by beat this time. Though I did stick flags in some of my very favorite parts because we'll stop on those. But we're just going to get in. So we're going to stick to a little bit more like over the general questions for it. So I don't know if we have any of our first timers with. I know that Crystal, she's hosting a readathon right now. She, I don't think, got through Voyager yet. So she's not here for this. But I can't sleep because I know it's a thing. I just want to know people's general thoughts of the book as we do. Let's start with that. Just how we were feeling about it. What did we think about this one after the heartbreak of the last one? So
I loved it. I gave it 5 stars again on reread because this has always been my favorite book of the series. And
it's a good one.
Just going back and rereading it, it just reaffirmed that I loved everything about this one.
That's good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it more on the reread. This is like my final reread. Now they're all going to be new to me, so I'm really excited. But like, I think the first time around, I was just wanted Jamie and Claire together. And so I was like, like this is dragging, come on. And this time, like I appreciated it so much more. So when they do, reunite. Like I was actually like crying and getting emotional, and just so I gave it 5 stars, and I just loved it a lot more the second time around, and I enjoyed it much more than the last one. The last one I still gave 4 stars, but this one was just, I don't know. So I loved it.
Love it.
It
Steph,
was my first time reading this one because I only read the first 2 before, and
Oh,
I really
okay.
liked it. So to me, the pacing was a little bit better somehow, and I felt like I got through it faster, even though I started very late. I read it in 2 days, so it was like bam, bam, bam for me. Yeah, it went faster, even though it was over 1,000 pages. It just felt like more of a journey somehow. It of course it's Voyager, so it's journey, but it felt like, I don't know, I liked it more than the other ones. To me, the first one especially felt a little bit, let's go, I want some action, and this one had a lot of action for me.
It does. Yeah. Well, and I feel like too, the first one, most people kind of know the story of that one, even if they haven't read it yet. Like a lot of people do know what happens in the first one at this point. Not everyone, of course, but so the first one can feel like it takes so many pages to tell you stuff you like already know, which is fair. But I don't feel that way, Brian. It's your favorite in the series, says Karen. I love the reunion and seeing how Bree encourages her to go. Oh, I know. Oh, love it so much. We're gonna get into it for sure. But yeah,
I think I appreciated like Bree and Roger more, like reading this time around. So it was like, you know, I actually liked that timeline again, like more than I did the first time.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. It's very difficult the first time reading through when you're just like, they've been torn apart, you know, just that's what you read in the last one, and you're like, oh my gosh, just find them. But we wouldn't find him if it wasn't for Roger, you know, like he does it, like he's so great. We'll get into that with this part 1, but one of my favorite like lines, I shared it in my story, is when he's like, I found him, are you coming back, let's go. And I was just like, I'm like, oh Roger, you're so great, I love you so much. And I don't know, I just love him. He's the perfect version of Frank to me. I know that's a weird comparison to make, but like Roger's all the best tricks of like his dad, and like things about Frank where you're like very tenacious and you're smart and figure it out, but not a dick. So that's why I love Roger. He's great. But let's go ahead and get into it with part 1, which we'll go through these first parts pretty quick because they go pretty fast. Okay, we'll get around to this, Ruth, I think. You want Jamie and Claire to be able to spend some time without kidnapping Adrian. Oh, we're getting there, Ruth. We'll get there. There'll be books worth of that for sure. We'll get there. We'll get there. For now, it's still a lot of it. But part 1, let's see. Oh yeah, I have questions. Jen, here, I flipped open my book. We're not reading through the book right now. Put it down, girl. Okay, the first question that I had for this one was, we get to start the book with being in Jamie's POV finally. So we get to start with him now. It's a pretty dark place when we start, but how do you think about how he reacts to things in the way that, you know, we're seeing things through his eyes? It is this very dark stuff that we see, but I put like, what do you think of the vibe of his mind? I'm so loquacious, aren't I? That I said it that way, but like, what do you think of his brain? Whoever wants to start, just go.
I appreciated we got Jamie's POV this time, you know, so I was happy to be with Jamie, but I was sad and it was depressing, and Jamie just kind of wanting to give up. Like he didn't have Claire, he didn't have their daughter, you know, like, and so he was just kind of, and like right in the beginning where it starts out and he's just thinking of Claire like instantly. And I don't know. And then like, you know, I don't know. It was just depressing, but you know, you just feel for Jamie so bad because he's lost everything, and now it's just going to get way worse for him too.
Yeah. Becky? Why did you pass? If you don't have an answer, you can say pass.
No, I do. I'm just like processing, okay? Because it's been a while since I read it. So I'm like trying to think.
Sure.
I did love getting his perspective. I think I don't know if it's interesting how each book so far we've started in a different person's perspective, but I found it interesting.
It is interesting.
But yeah, it was really like sad to see him almost give up on life, like Amber said, and just seeing him try to process his grief of losing so much, but yet he still has to go on somehow. And there's other people in his life that are not depending on him so much, but kind of depending on him. So he has to find a way to, get back to living his life the best he can, and what he does with that life I found very interesting. I also just really liked how it went from well, we're not into part 2 yet, but how it sort of mirrored what Claire was learning about what he was doing, and then we actually get to see him doing that. I really liked that, because I've always said I don't like it when they're not together, because I get really bored. But for some reason in this book, I really liked seeing what just Jamie was doing. What his life was like.
Well, before we continue on with that, one of the things too that I think we will see throughout the series is that generally we don't get anyone else's POV if Claire's around. There'll be some times where we see her from other people's point of view in the future, but like for the most part, if Claire's there, we stay in her. So, there's sometimes, of course, we get these Roger pieces where he's finding stuff, so it's important to see his, but otherwise, if she's around, we don't usually get other people. Like that's why the second half of the book, I think there's one. I'm not through the second half, but I think there's like one time we get his again. Is that true? Do you guys remember? Like when they're trying to find her, we like
when they're separated with like the ships kind of thing, and him, like we kind of get that.
Yeah.
Like generally when Claire's around, we're not going to get Jamie, and I think it's very interesting because I think it's trying to show that like she knows what he's thinking for the most part, so like we don't have to be in there. That's not always true, but anyway. That's me putting my perspective in. I love when we get Jamie's POV. He's one of my favorite heads to be in throughout the series. Whenever we get him, I just find such like peace in his POV. So it is tough to start here where, I fully believe, I don't think I made this a question, but I fully believe that if Jamie wasn't a Catholic, he would have killed himself. And so I'm very thankful for his faith in the beginning of this, because that's all he can hope, is that he'll be good enough that he'll be able to be with her and his child in the afterlife. And he can't kill himself if he wants to do that based on his religion. That's my personal feeling of just how depressed he is. And so that's why he throws himself into the fight. He's like, well, if I die, like, then I don't have to make that choice. Like it's done for me type of thing. And it's so hard. It's so hard to see our hero, who's just the best of men, his mind is just like crying for her, and it just does for ages, and he doesn't have a new baby to take care of.
You don't usually see Jamie give up, so it's like to watch him give up was like, it's hard.
Yeah,
I did like seeing Jack Randall dead though.
Right, I know.
But I wanted to see it, like
Finally.
he's dead.
Yeah. The show does give us that, I will say. I love the battle scene of that in Voyager. That's a good one. Steph, what did you think? Because this is your first time. I forgot this one would be your first time.
Yeah.
This is good. I wanted the first perspective.
It made me love him more, because at the same time he's selfish for wanting to die in the battle, but he also is only thinking about her making it through and surviving and the child living, and he was praying for her while he was on that battlefield, and it made me cry. So it was so sad for him. Like, he had to live on without them, and it was so well done on the page, and you could really like feel what he was feeling for me. So more so than in the series, because in the series you have like the battle and stuff, and you didn't really see the battle, you just saw his emotion and him thinking he was dead, and how can I still feel pain, and it made me love Jamie more. So
Oh, he's so good. I can cry right now. I'm just trying not to, because I love him so much. The way he's just like, he's saying, and he's having to say goodbye to all of his friends. Like all of his friends die then, like they're all gone. You know, we don't even get a real goodbye of Murtaugh. He's just gone. And yeah, it's so hard. It's so hard. All right. Let me see this next question here. If we skipped. Yes. Okay. So the next question I had is I said, I'll read this. I said, before we jump on the Frank hate train, because I will be on the Frank hate train, of which I am the conductor. See, I'm cute. I was making cute things. What would your reaction be if your spouse returned the way that Claire does? Because we'll be fair to him for a little bit, because I can do it. I can be fair. I'll think of Tobias Menzies and I can be fair. If I think of show Frank, I can be fair. Book Frank, I don't really give a shit. So what do we think of him? Of like what? Well, first, what would you think? That's what I asked first. Let's go with Steph. We'll start with you this time and give.
Okay.
Go that way.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't think I would have been able to stay with her, I think.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know.
Yes or no? What do we say? I mean, it's been 3 years, right? I mean, I wouldn't. I don't even
I
think
probably would have
keeping her.
announced her death and moved on, maybe.
Right.
Found someone else, live my life.
Right.
Yeah.
Would have been easier if he'd married someone else since then. I would have liked that.
Mm-hmm.
That would have made things easier for us. If he'd already married someone else, be like, oh, no worries, no worries. I got pregnant. Well, it's fine. And you just stay there, you know.
I think it would have been different had they been together for longer and her coming back.
Mm-hmm.
But we really don't get like a sense of like they're that deeply in love with one another. So for her to come back 3 years later, I would have, if that were me and I was with somebody who I didn't have that strong of a connection with, I'd been like, peace. You're dead.
Right.
You came back? Oh, well, congratulations. Have a good life.
Yeah.
But had I been with somebody for like 20 plus years, I would have
Sure.
had a different reaction, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would be thinking they were kind of crazy. They're coming back pregnant, and they were back in time, and I'd be kind of like, okay, I don't know if I could really continue, especially with their type of relationship. You know, it wasn't like Bex was saying, is it's not like on that deeper level. So, I mean, I think Frank kind of decided to say, just like she was saying, was, you know, because of Bree. I think he must have known maybe he did have issues having kids. I don't know if that came later.
He says it. No, he
okay,
says
because I know he says it later, but it's like this is his like opportunity to have, you know, a child, basically. I kind of think. But.
Yeah, he said that he does it because he didn't want to leave her. She was sick. She's not only pregnant, she's sick when she comes back too, right? She's emaciated and like like she's not doing well. So he's like, I would have been a cat if I just left you. Like she doesn't have anyone else in the world. This is true. She has no family at all. So it's his honor that keeps him there. And then he's like, he meets the baby. He says it. He's like, I met her and I wanted to stay. And I was like, no, I don't hate that reasoning. I don't hate it. It's just how he punishes her for it that I don't like so much later. But
it was character growth for him that, you know, he saw this child and fell in love with him after saying he could never take a child that wasn't his blood in the first book.
I know. That's true. And that stuck out to me more this time. I think I said that in the first one that I was like, oh man, that is just really powerful. And Jamie doesn't get a raise either of his babies. It's very sad. It's very, very sad to me. But loved her so much, and Claire would have really struggled at first on her own. Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of people who stay together for kids, right? So it's great that he could do it for not his own. And again, especially like Beck said, because he didn't want to adopt, and that's what he did. And not only did he adopt, it was a child that, you know, looks, not that he's seen Jamie Fraser, but who looks like him as well. You know, Bree is 6 foot tall and red haired and strong and definitely not looking like really Frank or Claire at all. We have to give him some credit. Claire coming back after 3 years wearing a round wedding ring. Yep.
Which she like never takes off, which would kind of be.
Yeah, you can tell that she's never really like back in love with Frank by any means.
Yeah.
She sort of strings him along, quite honestly.
Well, I think she puts herself up. She's like, she was waiting for him because she wasn't gonna leave him and be the one who did that because she left him before. But she says, she's like, I was just waiting for you to leave and you never left. I begged people to take you and you wouldn't go. So I don't think she really strung him along. I think he wanted the child and he didn't leave. But anyway, we'll get there. We'll get there with it. Being a show watcher, first, I never liked Frank. His rules were never talk about the past, never work through either one of their traumas, pretend nothing ever happened, pick up where they left off. Yeah, definitely a sign of the times too, Lisa. Of the like, we're just going to repress and ignore. This is our future now. This is our facts. He is also the one who encourages her to go to medical school too. She's unsure of if she should, and he's like, he does it in a offhanded way where he's like, well, I'll take care of her. You're going to be too busy. But still, he does encourage her to do that. That's also a positive in his column, a teeny tiny one. So she probably would have done it eventually on her own. But, you know, he does push her that way where he's like, you can do it. I'll take care of her. That really wasn't a part of the time to be the one taking care of the kid, too. You know, that's easy to say now where we're like, well, of course the woman should get to do that. But he did not have to. And she could have been stunted. So that's kind of cool. Her being a doctor is a very good thing. You're going to want that experience very soon. The more I reread the series, the more I do pity Frank. Oh, that's fair. He truly loved Claire and had to stay married to her for Brianna's sake while watching her love someone else. That's true. How much he loved her, good to know.
I
feel the thing too is I feel like his love for her probably grew in his mind with her having gone because it was a very tragic like disappearance. You know, so if he didn't think she ran away, which, you know, to have her wife just disappear, you probably build her up even more in your mind when they're, you know, what thinks she wasn't really. But okay, one more question here and then we'll go. Let me see. Okay, this was a good one. So what do you think about the way each of the men react to Claire telling the truth? Jamie hearing she's from the future and Frank hearing that she went to the past. I thought that was kind of an interesting juxtaposition of just kind of like the closed-mindedness of Frank versus Jamie. He pretty much always accepts that stuff. Like, even when she is back now and he's, you know, like the zipper that she has and like these things, he's just like, oh, that's so cool. You know, like he's very intrigued by things. He doesn't say cool, of course, but.
I think it's a sign of the time, different times that they lived in too, because of like all like the lore and different things that, you know, like they thought she was a witch, you know, they like, instead of like, you know, it's just a different time compared to now. You know, if somebody told you that, we're kind of more cynical and about like facts and science and all that kind of stuff. So I think, especially Frank's mind, the way he worked. So I think it was easier for Jamie to kind of like accept that. And then, you know, I was just going to say Jamie's better, but
he's more open-minded.
Yeah.
But it would have been easy for Frank to go and search in history books and stuff and fact check this and see that it really happened and confirm it to Claire. It would have been easy for him, I think, especially with the plan book.
Definitely would. It definitely would. It definitely would be easy for him to do that.
He probably didn't care enough to even do it.
Well, no.
Or maybe he did, and just didn't want to.
Well, he probably thought, you know, what if she's telling the truth? Like, what does he do with that information?
I gotta remind us now. Wait, Becky, how far have you read? Are you caught up? Let me just have a refresher here.
Yeah,
you've read them all. Okay, you both. This is the last one. Like, you haven't read further than this, and this was the first time for you. Okay.
Yes.
I just want to make sure I don't give stuff away here to people because now I got to do because I'm like, it does make sense that the historian would look into shit. Yeah, there's lots of stuff about Frank still. Okay, well that's enough. We'll go on to the next one. There's not a ton in that part anyway. We're already jumping. Oh wait, what's somebody say here? Well, yep, here we go. I think on some level he didn't want to know at the beginning. Very true. Very true. The 18th century was open to supernatural, made it easier for Jamie to accept what he was, right? And it's also true. It's also easier to prove the future in some ways than it is to prove the past. Like Claire knew about places and things and connections and stuff because of what Frank had told her, where it's harder to prove the past to someone in the future. Then there's also that, but also
Yeah.
Jamie is more open-minded. That's absolutely true. But you know, in regards to some of those things, like we see the amount of work Roger has to do to find even the tiniest clues that aren't just coincidences that could prove it, right? Like it's very difficult to find physical things that can prove it. So it's very interesting. But all right, on to part 2. Here we go. Okay, so now we enter the dun bonnet phase of Jamie, so he gets back to Lallybroch. And we see this version of him that is like a walking ghost. Like he's not really living. It's very hard for his family. It's very hard for him. There's some beautiful lines of him being like, it takes him until he gets home and like shaves his face and like sits there before he can be himself again. And so I said this, I was like, what do you think is keeping him going at this point? And I kind of said what I think that it is, but I just want to know what you guys think too.
I think for me it was his family, his sister and her children, that kept him going, to keep them fed and help them in any way he could. That was my experience about it.
Yep. No, you're good. You're good. Okay.
I agree with you.
The
I have a
book
dog.
version is very different
Yeah.
from the show. He interacts with his family more in the book. Yeah, that's true. That's true. The show, this is fit into one episode, so although it's a short part in this one too, we see him like realize how tough everything is with all the changes that have happened in Scotland. He not only is a fugitive, but also just Scottish people in general are fucked right now. So even if he wasn't a fugitive, things weren't doing well there anyway. And, you know, he really comes to the point. I think it's the pull between it's a sin if he were to kill himself, so he wouldn't be able to be with his family. And then also, he does still have duty. That's what he has left. That's what I feel like. There is some duty, and he's like, what can I do? And eventually that's like, well, I can turn myself over, basically, is what I can do. You know, I can't provide for them in any other way but to sell myself, basically. And I think that's very powerful, very powerful. But let's see. Okay, so why do you think Jamie and Claire never told the Murrays her secret? Do you think they could have been more understanding if they knew? So I mean this as regards to part 2, where like Jenny is trying to get him to like, hey, marry someone, or like, hey, do something, you know, not necessarily in regards to when we'll see them again later in the book, but they never told her like when they had both like seen them the years before, nor has he like explained it now. She's just gone.
I don't know. Maybe they felt like the more people who knew, the harder it would be to keep it from the people who were not going to believe her and try her as a witch.
Yeah.
Like if she told Jenny and then like somehow the kids found out, like that's just what's going to stop the kids from saying something to somebody else. I don't know.
Yeah.
And also Jenny is kind of a hothead, so maybe if she got angry at them, she would say something, you know, scream it out into the world. It would not have been wise, I think, because Jenny she's sweet, but she's also very passionate, and if she gets angry, she does things without thinking.
Yeah, she's so protective of her family and of Jamie and everything. And I wish she knew, because, you know, when she comes back, I think it would have been better. But I mean, I don't know. It's a dangerous thing to just tell everybody, you know, or certain select people. You never know what could happen. So it kind of makes sense that they didn't tell them.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree there. Okay. All right. The other question doesn't really seem pertinent anymore. It seems cool when I asked it, but let's move along here. Where are my questions? There we are. Ugh. Should have written them all down, but I didn't. Oh, let's do it. Ruthie. I don't understand why they didn't say anything, but I feel like Jenny knew something, especially when Claire told her to plant potatoes. Yep, that is true. Well, because what Jamie had said is he said, you might tell me some things to do, and I wasn't to ask any questions about it. And that's kind of the extent of what he had told her, like, when they first met her. And, I mean, she does just, like, agree to do that, too, you know? Which is kind of interesting, for sure.
How did they call it? The site or something that she had?
Right. Oop. Yeah, there is something in... That's something that I think gets explored later on, is that I personally think that there's some more mysticism around the Fraser family than is, like, fully explored yet. That's my personal feelings. Not time travel kind, but, like, other types of magic and stuff, I think, is going on. But we'll see. All right, let us go to part 3 now. And so here we get some dark looks here. How was early motherhood for Claire, and how do you think it might have been different with Jamie?
She could have enjoyed it a lot more, having Jamie's support and love, and him being there, and them raising their daughter together. I don't know. It's just hard to, like, watch her be with Frank with a baby, and, like, you know, it's tough.
Yeah.
I think she had some postpartum stuff going on, definitely. Like, she didn't seem like she had the most of motherly of instincts, and then compile that with, you know, coming back, losing the love of her life. I feel like Brianna definitely bonded more with Frank than with her.
Yeah.
She did the damn thing, though.
That's right. Oh, absolutely. And I mean, there are all different kinds of moms. Like, my mom is not overly, like, motherly. She never has been, but she raised me just fine, you know, I mean, whatever. She raised me just fine. And I still felt loved, but she definitely isn't a cozy lady the way some of my, like, friends' moms are, you know. You're always kind of like, Mom, why don't you do those things? And she's like, because I don't. I'm just not like that, you know. From a very strict, like, German family, and they just didn't do touchy-feely stuff the way that I am used to from other stuff. But anyway, point being, I agree with that. I feel that Jamie's definitely a more affectionate parent in that. When we see him get to parent of, like, his nephews, or when there's other children he's taken in and things like that, he's very, like, more of the affectionate one, very good at the like, encouraging, like, words for children too. Claire's more of just like, I can fix it. I'm logical. I can fix what's wrong with you, but not like for that. So,
like, why are you crying? I've gone through everything that could be wrong with you. Why are you crying?
Right. And then in the time they're in too, where there's just no, like, she was still expected to be, like, so perfect all the time. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Breastfeeding and poopy diapers and sick babies don't equal that I'm able to be put together. Like, that's just not how it goes. And I think it's true too of, I was going to pull this up. Karen mentioned this, is like, Claire's very honest. And I'm sure living the lie with her daughter was hard. Oh, okay, that's not where I thought I was going to go. It's clearly very hard with Frank. I like this, what you just said.
Yeah.
I was going to say that, or what was I going to say? It just went out of my brain. What was I going to say? Oh, shoot. I got distracted by it, by being like, oh, this is what I was going to say. Oh, in book 2, she's very honest when she says, like, I hated you until I, like, met you. And it's not that I think she hates the baby, right? But I think, like, she didn't, like, bond with her baby right away the way she, like, would have in other cases, because it's like, this is
She blamed
wrong.
her
Like, I shouldn't
for
be
having
raising
to
you this
leave.
way. What?
That was She blamed her for having to leave Jamie, because
Yeah.
Jamie told her, "You're pregnant. I want the baby to be safe. You need to go to the Stones." And
Yeah.
for her, the pregnancy and the baby were the reasons she was not with Jamie. So I think she was mourning, blaming the baby, struggling with maybe something postpartum. And Frank did not see her struggling, just continue with whatever the fuck he was doing, and
Yeah.
also made her like be this perfect wife, which also
Mhm.
made her snap. And
Yeah.
she was not a bad mother. She just didn't have the
No.
right support system, someone to tell her everything was gonna be alright, because Frank was just doing his own selfish thing.
Mhm. Mhm. And there weren't even really any like women to look to because he moved her to America. You know, like any people they had known, if they did have any friends, weren't in America. So, you know, when you are a single person with you're an orphan, like the only people you have are your friends anyway. And she never really had that. But just imagine any community she ever did have, she hasn't been around for 3 years. But then anybody she might reconnect with, like, Mrs. Bird, or then like, you're not getting to stay in Scotland or anything. We're moving you to America. So, there was no real hope of a community either, which is difficult. You need a community to raise a
Yet
baby,
like a
whether you have a
little
husband or not.
small circle
Yeah.
They're
of
also
just Frank
judgy.
and
Yeah,
the nanny, maybe sometimes.
Frank was very helpful with Bree. Jamie probably would not. Oh, interesting choice. Okay. Based on the time and his sense of duty to everyone, may not have been involved in the affair. All right, Ruth. Okay. All right, you can say that. I don't agree with you, but you can say that.
I don't think Jamie would have had a choice. Let's be real.
Right.
I think Claire
Right.
would have been like, "You're helping with this kid."
Well, I'm going to say the reason why I disagree. I'm not saying I disagree with the times. That's how it was. But we saw how Jamie was with his sister's brand new baby. And I don't mean the one here. I mean an Outlander when she had just had a baby and he got up and took her so that they could sleep. Like, and that was just his sister. He was like, I'll take her until she needs to feed again. He did that with his niece when he didn't have to. So that's just why I think I was like, sure, the times might be the women need to do it, but James Fraser is not that type of man. He would have been there for every moment of it. And, that's what's hard to see because I don't think I have too many more questions about Frank even until we get later, but I do think he was a good dad for his time. I just think that Claire needed more than that, even though there wasn't going to be a romantic thing happening with them still, like she needed more than that. And she was made to feel like bad, which.
Well, and like she finally has like kind of a colleague that she feels support with, and he like belittles that. Like that's when I was like, maybe that's a question later on, but I was getting really angry with like Frank later on in the story when she's a doctor and stuff. So I'll wait till we get there. But
yeah, we're almost there. No, we're almost there. We're good. We also in this have to touch on prison. So the next question I have is, what do you think of John Gray? Do you trust him? Will he be a friend or a foe? And this was for the people who just read it for the first time, of course, because we all know. But what do you think of him when you first met him? He's the reason Jamie's alive. Let's start with that.
Yeah. I really loved him. Like, I loved his character. I felt like this time around, I felt so much more for him than I did the first time. And just like that unrequited love. And like, he's just so, like, I really loved his character. And he's such a good guy and like actually helps Jamie a lot in multiple parts of this book, So he's such a good, noble, like kind of guy. And, about his honor and how they met and everything is just funny where they end up. So I really loved him a lot more in this book than like I did when I first read it, or like I still love the actor too in the show. I think he does such a good job in that too.
Yeah. Yeah, he's fantastic. I picture him. I already had a view of John Gray in my head because I hadn't seen it. He wasn't cast yet, but I see him. And I like when that happens. He's great.
I was pretty ambivalent toward him like the first time I read it, but having read the whole series and knowing what goes on, like rereading it really made me like him a lot more. And I feel
my first thought was, oh my god, another one that wants in Jamie's pants.
Yeah.
No, why?
Yep. Well, I was
It
just
did help
gonna
a lot
mention,
because so he started to grow on me during the
yeah,
story.
I was
Mhm.
gonna mention the big difference is we get LJG's POV, so that kind of sets him apart too. Which I guess is he LJG now? I think he's Major JG right now, but he's MJG right now. He'll be LJG by the end of this. But one of the things that kind of tips you off is like we get his POV of this, so I wow, that actually just gave me a thought. I don't think we ever have a POV of a villain. I'm thinking now. Hold on. I don't think we ever do. I don't think we ever have a POV of someone who will be a villain. So we'll just put that out there.
Yeah.
For future reference of any people, like if they get a POV, it's usually because they're going to be important and she's going to keep him around and everything. But he is just, oh, my precious poor little gay baby. Like he just is in a tough place. He's in a tough place.
Like the hand, like when he touches Jamie's like hand and he's like, "Don't fucking touch me." I was just like, "Oh, poor guy. He has no idea what Jamie's been through."
I know, and
So
he's trying to be so subtle. He's not like he's just
yeah,
like and it's like no.
But
One
it
of the things.
he respects Jamie's rejection
Yeah,
of that, which is
yeah.
mm-hmm. Yeah, he absolutely does. He's
Which
so
which
precious.
was what made me like him more because he respected Jamie's boundaries.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, in such a dangerous time, like that is the juxtaposition of the two. Is that he has the same level of power over him that Blackjack ever did. He's just a good man. Like Lord John Grey's a good man, who happens to like other men and is in a very difficult place because of that.
Yeah.
But the other thing about him that, and this is for people who have like seen the show, this is a character that I do see John Barry, but he is a bit miscast because he is definitely a lot taller and hunkier and bigger. Something that always gets a kick out of me is he's I think only like in the book I think he's like what's he supposed to be like 5'5" or something. He's short. Like he's short. He's like shorter than Claire, I think, or the same height as her. He's short. And that's okay. And then men can be short, it's fine.
Yeah.
But I think it's funny because it's supposed to be a juxtaposition of like Jamie is like 6'5", and he's very much like smaller than him. And this, there's a woman later that he comes face to face with, and in my head I always imagine of like how tall this woman is and like how short he is, and it's hilarious in my brain when these two come face to face. So just imagine, like he's definitely a more, like even says, he's definitely a more feminine man as well. And so he does have to be careful. Let's be real. Like he does have to be careful, and he's not throwing his weight around like Blackjack would. He also doesn't have like little man syndrome, like Napoleon syndrome, where he is throwing
Yeah.
power around because he's that. Like he's just a good, honorable man. I appreciate that he's not as pitiful in the books. Oh, you think he's pitiful in the show? I just wonder.
Oh.
Interesting. We can have our thoughts. But anyway, point being, I love LJG, and let's keep our eye on him because,
Yeah.
I mean, well, we'll just say, like, he is raising Jamie's baby, so
Mm-hmm.
it's important that he be a good guy, and that's, I think, something about Jamie that we can tell how much he trusts him, that he sends his son with, who he would consider, I mean, it would have been considered a bugger, someone who does that. That's what it would have been. So he really does trust him. I know, but he moves so nicely, Lisa. I'm sorry. Like, there are times
So
where
like
I
his
almost wish.
eyes.
I know, he's so good at it. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I love it. I don't know. We don't see a lot of him in this one, so that's maybe why I think he doesn't moon as much. Like there is much mooning ahead still. They have a long acquaintance with each other, so it's just one of his greatest like things that he can't have. It's very sad. Voyager is my favorite book, and season 3 is my favorite season. Well, it's a pretty good one. All right, we love LJG. Moving along to the next question here. Okay. What do you think was learned or accomplished during the years at Ardsmuir? It's a very interesting time when we're there. Just with the whole the Jacobin treasure, which we will never get rid of. Everyone, get used to the Jacobin treasure. It's never going to disappear, right, Becky? It's going to be around forever. But I was always very confused by this interaction. I will say the show actually helped me understand a bit better what was going on, because I was very confused by what was going on. But I mean, the purpose is, like, John is interested in it because he's hoping that it will get him out of this position if he's able to find something good to share. But Jamie, you know, hears talk of the witch, the white witch, and he's like, oh my God, is she here still somehow? You know, very interesting. But anyway, is there any other comments? I'm sorry, I talked the whole time about it, but Ardsmuir is a tough place, but it's also where he makes community. These Ardsmuir men will be important later on. They're very important. So it is an important time that he's there.
Yeah, you kind of get to see Jamie be a leader. Sorry, Jen.
Nope, you go.
Kind of like a leader with like his men, you know, like, and it's like not his usual men that he came from home with, all his friends, and like, so it kind of just showed how he has that personality and that skill to be like a good leader and like take punishments, you know, for others, and just that he really helps these other men in this prison. And the fact that like he even like comes back after he tries to go get this, you know, the treasure and stuff. I don't know. It just makes you love Jamie even more and see what a good leader that probably is going to carry on through each situation that he goes through.
Yeah. Well, and he knew they'd all be punished for him going too. So he wouldn't let people do that. But the other thing I was going to point out is it puts him on the history books. This is also why Ardsmuir is so important, because, you know, as you can tell, we're showing the stuff that he's done based on the like notes that it leaves in history. That's why we're seeing him in these different places, because Bree and Roger are following his trail. So Ardsmuir is very important because it gives us a big chunk of years where he was in one place and we know that he lived because we know that he left it. So Ardsmuir is also important for that. It puts him on the map.
And I think it gives him like a sense of purpose again too. Like, since he's there and it could be like a really dark place for him again, having people to sort of depend on him and look up to, it gives him a reason to keep going.
Yeah, like that, sure. All right, so I think that's kind of it, unless there was anything else about part 3 that anyone had. I'll move along to the next one. All right, okay, part 4 is, oops, I keep hitting the wrong button. Come back. Part 4, and we are at the Lake District, which starts with Geneva. What do we make of Geneva? Amber, go ahead.
I don't know. This was just funny to me. It was just like the audacity of this girl and like blackmailing him, but like the whole like sexual scene is just like her like get it out, like, or and then it's like it was just, I think it was like one of the laugh out loud moments of the show. I mean, not the show, the book. But like I was irritated with her for doing that to Jamie. We don't want to see Jamie with really anybody, but I mean, how is he, you know? So I don't know. And then he would get, you know, his son from it. So I did feel kind of bad for her because she doesn't last very long, you know, but
she's definitely a like woman of, I don't mean like a woman of her time in a good way, but like she has no choices. The woman does literally the only thing she can, and then that mistake like literally kills her.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say this, but I think maybe getting impregnated by the most ginormous Scot that there ever was wasn't very helpful, because Claire did not have an easy pregnancy time either. I think he is the problem. Let's point it out there. Because she lost a baby the first time, which I know this other thing, but also like would have died if she wasn't in the 21st century when she had Bree. So
yeah, gigantic men make gigantic babies.
That's right. I think his sperm is the problem. I think the blame is for that. But no, I remember too. Like, it's funny how my opinion of the scene has like changed over time. I definitely do read it as kind of more funny now too, even though it is a moment of like a levity in the middle of like a lot of stuff because
Yeah.
Geneva's she's a sad character. She comes off bitchy, but like what else does she have? You know?
Yeah.
Like her parents are selling her off. She's like, I don't want to lose my virginity to this old ugly turd. Read plenty of romance novels where this is the plot of one, you know, like if they were in a different place, this wasn't Jamie and Claire's show. This could have been a great romance with the groom and the woman of the house, right? The lady of the house.
Is she like a bitch who manipulates, or is she a woman who takes her power?
Right. Well, it's such a, because I remember back when like this was going to come out, people were analyzing this stuff, and now doing this reread after it, I'm like, well, number one, like she coerces him, she does, so she's the one with the power in it. And then when they get to the thing, yes, he could have not done it, but also he's like, I don't want her to change her mind again later, so let's just do it. We'll just get it over with. I'm like, oh, if this was taken a little more seriously, this is pretty bad. But I also am kind of like, girl, you literally you're the one who put the dick pointing at you. I don't know what else to tell you. I'd hate to put Jamie to that, but you literally put the loaded gun right in front of you, and then we're like, no, I'm kidding. And he's like, well, yes.
Too late.
Yeah. I did see it this way, Karen, too. When I read it, now, like reading it more, I feel like he doesn't see it that way. And like, I can read it that way if I want. I do think so. She uses her power, threatens his family members and his loved ones to get him there. But I also think he sees how sad that she is. And I think he would not have had to do it if he didn't want to. He could have talked her out of it then, in my opinion. But also, he does feel bad for her. You know, if he could see what was going to happen to her because of it, he might have made a different choice. But you know, I do think it's this. I do. When we look at the technical term of what a rape can be, coercion equals rape. But I mean, obviously, he's been through much worse of things. And so for him, it's like, this is just another thing I got to do. I don't care. I'll just do it. He's a dutiful man, always making sacrifices for his family. The man, every single one he does.
I think in his life, he probably saw it different too, because he was obviously attracted to her. And so it's sort of that fight of, obviously I'm attracted to her, but I don't want to do this, versus when he's been raped in the past, it was totally against any sort of will he had.
Right.
So I think he was battling with that.
Yeah. And again, I could analyze this super deep down in another way too, of like, it's not talked about enough about men being raped anyway. And there's also not the kind of like, well, a man can't like make it happen if they're not. I'm like, yeah, they can, because it doesn't. And there's actually a line in a later book when he's comforting someone else, another man who's been raped, where like, your penis doesn't care what your heart wants. Like he says,
wasn't this book?
He says that to someone.
Yeah,
it is in this one?
I think it was this one.
I didn't finish it as we said, but he. Oh, that's right. In the show, it happens in season 4. So see, the show is twisting what I think about the book.
It's the conversation. The Wicked Witch.
Yes, yeah. That conversation happens in season 4, but it happens. Where it's like, your cock doesn't care what your heart wants, and it's pretty easy to stimulate a man, whether people will say that or not. Like, especially a brand new man, a young man who's already not in control of his dick as it is, and then it's awful. It's sad. So Jamie had no choice. She would have held it over him. Yep. Nope. I agree with you. But if a man did that to a woman, it would be bad. No, I agree. Well, and that's why I said I agree with her. I agree with Karen that this is a form of a rape. I agree with it. I'm just saying that there are types of rapes that scar you forever, which is a kind he said. And then there's the ones where you're like, you're forcing me to do this and I don't like it. You know what I mean? Like, it can still under the umbrella of rape, and there can still be different levels of trauma associated with the type of it. Like, and when you've experienced the very worst form of it, to him, he's just like, do I want to do this? No. Should I be made to do this? No. But he's also probably not going to carry trauma from that or wake up in a cold sweat like he has for the last 10 years from another. So I definitely still consider it this. I'm just saying, like, I think we can also acknowledge it's not the same type of rape that was happening where his body barely even works afterwards. You know, like there are different things.
Yeah.
And she is a spoiled little brat in one way, and she's also a woman who's a girl. Like, she's still a girl, and he sees both things. And that's what I think makes Jamie such an amazing man too, because he's also aware of what's happening in a way too. He's like,
Yeah.
but then he's also like, she's like, can it feel good? And he's like, sure. And he like also heard is like, you can clear that it happened again too, because she's like, can it feel good? And he's like, well, yes, it can. So that's why it is a little bit humorous, even though it's bad. And I mean, again, her choosing to do that leads to her death. It directly leads to her death that she had Jamie.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, she did pay for that. So yeah. Anyway, moving along. Geneva. But she does give us Willie. So here we go. My second one was, but thanks to Geneva, we have Willie. Jamie now has 2 children being raised by other men. What do you think about how he's forced to leave Willie, and do you think this was the only solution? Steph,
Well, I mean, with how much his kids look like him, and you know, it's kind of didn't have a choice, and it was what was best for the child, you know, in the long run too. And he's always going to be doing what's best for his children, so or family.
Yep.
He was going to inherit like a lot of money and a title, right? So if anybody suspected him of being a bastard, he would have been disowned.
Yeah.
He's the Lord of Ardsmuir.
But he didn't have red hair, right? That was the first thing Jamie thought about the boy. Luckily, he doesn't have my hair color.
Yeah,
something.
I think so. Yeah, I think it took
It
his mother.
Yeah, it turns red over time. Kind
Yeah,
of a
it
little
does.
bit. Okay. But it's how he like looks. Yeah. Well, and they say like it's the way he's walking. They're like, oh, it's because he spends time with him all the time. But like it's getting more and more clear the older you get. So no, I agree with it. I absolutely agree with it for sure.
It's heartbreaking for him though.
I know, my poor baby. It makes me so sad.
And also seeing his little boy being such a spoiled little brat. I think that's very difficult for Jamie.
Right? Did I like?
Yeah, he can't lay down the punishments like he probably would.
Yeah.
Or be as strict.
Right? I'm trying to see where it does this. Did I miss it?
Well, both of his children are kind of spoiled.
Yeah.
By other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Bree's a little spoiled brat.
Yeah, she is.
Right. This is good. With Geneva dead, he might have been accused of rape and probably hanged. That is a good point, Karen.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. If anyone could have proved it, I mean, to be fair, like the husband was dead too, and her family probably wouldn't have accused him of that, but you never know. So it was a good decision to make. And is this in? Okay, it must be in this part, but I'm like blurring it in my head. But does he ask Gray to help him right here? Where does this happen?
No, that's later on.
Okay, I thought so. Okay, because I'm like, in my head it happens there because it's chronological, but like it's more of like a flash to it later. But we reminisce on what happened and everything. But I mean, it's so sad for like Gray too, because it's like I can't have Jamie, but I can have his kids. So raised, of course, he doesn't have that thought. But anyway, it's very sad.
Like he'll always have a connection to Jamie through that.
Yeah,
I know he does, and which he uses against Claire later on, the little shit. But we'll talk about it when we get there. Oh, Gray, you poor thing. But what did I think? I think also he does luck out with who both raised his kids. Because again, to be fair, the one thing we will always love about Frank is that he did raise Bree well. And sure, we can say she's spoiled, she was, but he taught her a shit ton of stuff that is very important. And in my opinion, very clear that she was being taught to be a frontier woman, and I won't hear anything else. So Frank is a good in that respect. He was very good to Bree. And was some of it out of spite? Like, I'm going to be a better dad than any dad you'll find out about one day?
Yeah.
Probably. But we'll see. He tried his best. Everybody
I know. I honestly
feel Fraser, but Go ahead.
He honestly feel like he like almost pushed her into being a doctor because then he got to be more with Bree. But that's just my like hating on Frank thing, I think. Like
no, I think that's fair.
And then it was like he spent more time with her.
Well, I mean, he rubs it in her face when he does.
Yeah.
Like, is it right here? Is it part 5 where? Oh yes, it is this one. Right where we're going. Okay. Even the stuff I read, my brain is forgetting. All right, onward to part 5. All right. Here we go. Yes, I did it. Okay, so now we're going to visit some painful memories from the Randall marriage. Do you think they should have stayed or do you think they would have stayed together if Claire never went time traveling? We maybe talked about this. Would she have had the urge to be a doctor? What might have been different? That's the question. If she'd never went to the past, I think she still would have wanted to be a doctor. Oh, that was an interesting question to ask. I don't know.
I think she probably would have wanted to divorce him, but during the times, she probably would have stayed with him.
I think they might have stayed together but more like as their friendship. Because I've always felt like when they were first together, it was like they were kind of like friends and supported each other. They didn't have this like passion or anything. So I think they might have just stayed like this marriage of kind of convenience kind of thing of together. But I think she might have gone to be a doctor, or she would have just stayed like doing like be a nurse or whatever. She might not have pushed that far. But
I think they both would have been workaholics. And I think that, I mean, they both kind of are already, but I think they really would have both been workaholics. And I think they would eventually maybe got divorced when it was more acceptable. Like, or Frank would still, maybe still would have died. Yeah, he's much older than her, so he's still going to die before her for sure. So, I don't know. I think she might have because she had that passion for it. And if they never did have a kid, because he really can't have, if that really, really is true, like they didn't and they never did, like what else, there isn't anything pushing them apart, but there's also nothing keeping them together. So it was just like, we're going to work ourselves to death because there's nothing going on. But
I think because of Bree, he was also having affairs, right? I think if he did that and they didn't have a child, she would have divorced him, or at least live separate from him, not be together anymore. Bree was the factor that held them together. Without her and his adultery, I think they wouldn't have been together. And he would have eventually slipped, because I don't think you can blame that entirely on Jamie. I think it's his personality that he finds younger students or whatever to like get his ego up, like he's amazing. These girls look at him in that way.
Yeah. Nope, I agree.
And I don't think that Claire would ever be able to give him that.
That's true. Yeah, I don't think she would put up with that. She doesn't have any. Well, here's the thing too, of her being an orphan, she doesn't have anyone saying like you have to stay with him. She doesn't have anyone who's like, there's no mothers pressuring her to do that. Like she was only with Frank because she did like him. So if she doesn't like him anymore and there's no kid in the way, like why do you stay? She doesn't care about being seen as a pariah. Right. She doesn't care about being seen as a pariah or, if divorce was bad, like she wouldn't stay. So yeah. All right, let's get into this stuff here. Do you think we are seeing Frank with his mask off, or is there more to his cruel words and actions when we have this flashback to him? Because I have actually a theory going on that I won't share. But we're in the chapter, or I have flipped up. This question is relating to lay a ghost to rest, right? So she's going to wrap things up in the United States before possibly going, right? So she's reflecting on their home and what it was like, and now he says some pretty shitty stuff. And
is it the scene of the night that he dies? The flashback?
Yeah.
It all happens. Where he says he's leaving her and taking Bree, and they just have it out. Like they haven't even talked about Jamie in all this time, and he comes up here too. So
That's the thing is like he basically stayed in this marriage and was spiteful and holding on to this anger and would never talk about it. And then it would come out like this, you know? And so it's like, and that's why I felt like, oh, he's like helped her to become this doctor, but then throws it in her face of her not being around or being with Bree as much. And he's like, I'm taking my daughter, you know? And she's like, it's just like he's gonna take his daughter and move and after his affairs and stuff. Like she doesn't care about your affairs if you leave, but you don't just get to take my daughter. And so he was just so petty. And then like the way he talked about her and her like colleague that was like such a good friend. Like I just that scene always drives me crazy.
Yeah.
That's karma.
So yeah. Well, I have some things too of like, and I know we try not to bring the show into this, but this scene alone is a scene that they rewrote the past of Frank in the show. And this is completely the reason why Frank gets this kind of send-off is because Tobias Menzies is a good actor, okay? Because the actual words that Frank says and the shit that comes out of him, he's a racist, sexist asshole, and it all comes out right now. Now, he may love Bree. I'm not saying he don't. Again, the one thing I'll give him for always is that he was a great dad. But the things that come out of him where he calls her his daughter and he does this, like, it's like, but she's not actually yours. And you've had the privilege of raising her as long as we go along. This is great, but you can't just say she's yours and take her when she's not yours at all. Like, what the actual hell? And again, to compare this to the show, he's like doesn't want to lose custody of her because that's what happens. They always pick the woman. Like comes out in the show where you're like, no, Frank literally says he doesn't want her effing a black man. Like he says that's one of the reasons, like, you hang out with the wrong type of people, I don't want her around them. Like all this comes out of him in this. And it's
I think I forgot that it was this bad in the book, like from the show. Because I was like, oh, I kind of forgot he's like freaking racist, like so racist in this scene.
So racist.
And it's also about me hanging out with the son, right? Of the other of her friend. Who calls himself the son calls himself Mohammed, I think. Go back to his African American roots. Yeah. I was like, what the hell, Frank? I'm glad you died.
So he just starts spewing all this stuff out. And then, Claire really has to exert herself of like, if you think you're going to do this to me, like, you're wrong, man. Like, you're so wrong. And I mean, to be fair, again, I'm glad we don't actually have to see that out. I'm glad he goes ahead and like dies for us in a neat way, because I don't know what would happen if she, I don't know how that would have went. Because I think the time might have looked down on her being a doctor when looking at who'd be more stable. They might have looked down on her being that busy and like him having more like friends and more connections than her. Like it could have went badly. Like it could have went very bad. But I do love the scene when she says goodbye. I do like that scene when he's dead already, of course. And she says that like as if speaking to, he's like, if you're still here, if you can hear me, like I did love you once. I did. And I do think that's a powerful scene because she deserves to have closure with this. She's felt so guilty. A lot of what kept her there so long was guilt. And it's just when he's finally ripping his mask off that it's kind of like, okay, well, I don't feel guilty anymore that you did this. Here we go. The racist BS really infuriates me. Take Brianna out of her senior year of high school and put her into boarding school while he starts a new life with his mistress. Yeah, I know, right? Right. And also to punish her, because it's like he's like to punish you for never like loving me back, but also like, and that's when he admits that I basically stayed because I found out I couldn't have kids, so I have liked raising her. So it's like he's being honest in that beautiful way, but then he pairs it with like, oh, you hang around black people. I'm like, are you sure? Like, why did you have to say that? Like, you didn't have to say that. He could have just went with like, you're a doctor, you're busy all the time, she likes me better. Like, he really could have went with that instead. But that's why I'm saying the show completely wants him to look like a saint who had one mistress the whole time. In the show, he has one mistress the whole time. So like, he's being kept from being with the woman he loves. Oh, this episode infuriated me, you guys. I know, I'm sorry. We're talking about the book for people who haven't, but like, I love Tobias Menzies too, okay? But he can also play an asshole really well. So just let him have this of course, it's fine to not make him like racist. It's fine. We don't have to do that. But have him do all the other stuff. And instead, he looks like he's just desperate to keep his daughter and like, you don't love her as much as me. And I'm just like, F you, man. You're a dickhead. And this was horrible. So my feeling about this is bad. When we will revisit Frank and things he's done in books to come, and I change my opinion on him a little. I do. I have a very complex feeling about Frank by book 9, of course. And he's someone that Claire does spend 20 years of her life with total. Like, there's a lot there. But, and Bree loves him so much. That's the thing, too, is like, Bree loves her dad. Like, that's daddy. Like, literally, that's daddy. Bree calls Frank daddy. And that's a tough thing for me to hear. It's a tough thing for me to hear because you're just like, oh, but you have a better one. Like, you have a better daddy, okay? Like, just not this.
She doesn't know that.
I know. But that's why, like, when I read book 2 and she's like, you cheated on daddy, you bitch. And I'm just like, well, I mean, your dad was cheating for like 20 years. She kind of, the same.
But she adored him, so she never saw that.
I know. Well, I know. That's why I said I understand him.
He probably didn't show that racism to his daughter or say that stuff to her, like he did to Claire.
Right.
It's really hard to put your mindset in like how you view people isn't how other people view people.
Right. I know. And that's why
in reality, I'm like, how do you like this person? How?
Well, and something that I'd say back is we're seeing this from Claire's POV completely. Is everything he said exactly as he said? We always have to take what she said as exactly as it is, but like, is everything she's remembering exactly how it was too? Like, is it? Like, do we know? Anyway, I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm not saying she's lying, but it's not like Claire's never been an unreliable witness or unreliable narrator ever. But yeah, it's just not great. So anyway, move along. We got to keep going. We're still rarely halfway through this book, and I promise I'd go faster. Okay, so now here's the tough question. Would you be able to go back to leave your child and go back to the unknown? Would a love from 20 years ago be enough for you to go back?
I feel like if my kid was like old enough and able to take care of themselves and they were like, it's fine, go do it, then sure, yeah. And she certainly didn't waste any time with that. She's like, Frank's dead. Here's the truth. Ah, he's alive.
And bye.
Send me back.
Well, I think it was like 2 years.
I mean, it took her time, but
it
could have taken a little bit more time than it did, in my opinion.
No, it did not. It was too late. It was too long. It should have been faster.
She was like, oh,
you should have told her about it a long time ago. But no, she would have lost her if she tried to tell her when Frank was still alive. Because Bree doesn't have to work through the mental work that she does. She doesn't have Roger who believes Claire and is talking to her. Like, she would have her dad in her ear being like, I know it was so hard for me, but your mom brought you back, so I couldn't be too bad. Like, he could have, and he does. Again, Frank has other stuff to say still. We have not heard the last from him, unfortunately.
I didn't realize we're going to get more Frank. Oh,
we will get more Frank. I know. I'm just kidding. I won't tell you how or when or why or where. But I mean, he is dead. I'm saying he is dead, but we haven't seen the last of him. He's not going to pull a like Jack Randall and rise up from underneath all the cows that crushed him. But I mean, we're going to see him again.
For me personally, I don't think I would have been able to leave so soon because Bree was also still mourning her dad, and that must have been difficult for her. She was still 17, so I think I would have waited until she turned 18 maybe, spent a little more time with her, especially she doesn't know if she'll ever see her again. I don't think I would have been able to do that. No, I think she was 17. Was she not?
I think she's 17 when Frank
dies. In college.
Yeah, she's 17 when Frank dies because, she—she's in her last year of school and needs to take her boarding school. And then it's 2 years later that she takes her on this trip through Europe and all this stuff. Yeah. So she's into when she's still that. She's 20 at that point, but
because she went back to America to write over everything to her when she turned of age, I think.
Yeah.
So that's why I still presumed she was not old enough. But
Oh yeah. Well, I think of age is 21 though for what she's
okay.
like
For
signing
us
over,
here,
like
it's
to own
18,
stuff.
so it
Yeah.
confused me. Yeah,
Right.
but
Well, I mean, it's 18 for a lot of stuff, but to like own certain things, you have to be 21, and to like have like those things. So it's weird.
but for Claire
But
and Jamie, I think it was great for the story that she went back like immediately. Like I found
Mhm.
out
Yeah.
and I went. Yeah.
right.
I will say I thought Brianna was much less of a brat in this one than the other book.
Right.
Like she was much more on her mom's side and
Yeah.
Mom,
Like
it's
the
okay.
last book, she was so bratty, and I was like, shut
Right.
up. You know, with
I know. But she
I
just
think
found
Roger
out.
does so much to help her though, like on that journey. And so that's why I loved Roger so much more than I feel bad, but like the show Roger, just like the book Roger, I really am like loving him now that I'm reading the books again.
Yeah.
But
That's how I want to make Roger fans out of everyone. Okay, I love
yeah.
him so much. Anyway, I'm a
Well,
Roger
and like
fan.
I never really feel their chemistry as much on the show, so like I'm feeling it more in the book. So I'm appreciating that. I don't think with my son is 20, and I don't know if I could go back.
Sorry,
I had a
I'm like,
young
wow.
pregnancy.
I
But
love
my
it. I'm
son,
like, wow.
my son's 20, and I'm like, I would want to kind of see him settled, married, probably before I went back. But it's like Jamie and Claire, like and her daughter wants her to go. So I also don't know if I could go back and not have air conditioning, and plumbing, and but their love is like the reason. So
Well, I liked that she had that moment of like, could I live without this tub? Could I live without this?
yeah.
It was like she
Yeah.
thought about it.
She took back that peanut butter sandwich, you know, where she was eating but yeah, I don't know. I wish she could have just like Bree obviously and Roger could like hear the vibrating, you know, and hear the stuff. So I'm like, can't Bree just go back with you so she can meet her dad? You know, like that kind of stuff at that time, you know? But
yeah. Well, funny enough, the last question for this section is, what did you think of Bree and Roger in the beginning? Because we're not going to see them for the rest of this book, you know, once they're gone. And my answer is like, I mean, Roger does all of the work. Like, let's be honest, he finds him. I love, like I said, I absolutely love the telegram he sends where he's like, I found him. Will you come back now? And like, I just love him so much. And yeah, I love that he makes it like exciting. And I think that's why Bree gets excited and she believes him. The more stuff that they find, it's like we find his name, we find these things, and you know, you would believe it because it's like, how could there be someone exactly named what my mom is named and all these things that she said and these, you know, you would believe it when you had that proof. That's why I said it's easier to prove the past than it is to prove like that you went forward to
yeah, like
something.
when they see like Claire's signature, like that she had like on the deed, you know, Lallybroch and stuff, and I was like, oh, that's really like you can't fight it there when you see her name there, like
And the very best part, the absolute like best part, is Bree getting that silly dress and being like, "You don't go, I'm going," because he deserves to know that I live. And I was like, I love you so much. I love you so much. And when Roger promises to take care of her and like, you know, but again, that would be hard because it's basically like both of her parents are dead, you know. But she is smart and independent in a lot of ways too. Like it would be really hard, of course, but to know that her mom will get to be happy and that, you know, she's ready for what's going to happen. And again, I hate to put it, like Frank has prepared her for a lot of things in ways too, which we'll see. So she'll
also be able to follow her mother through history too.
Right. They can look that up for sure. Also, I think too, she's a much more put together than what we were maybe at 20 years old too. Like, even though it's not that far in the past, like I think a 20-year-old in the 60s is still a little more grown up maybe than we are. So
for sure.
Okay, yeah. Some of our viewers here, what did you think of Bree and Roger? Love it so much more time together in the books. Yes. Yeah. And this is taking place over months too. Like they're trying to find him. Like it takes a while to get stuff and piecing everything together. It takes a while. So yeah, I love this. I love this. When you find my father, give him this for me. Oh my God. He has to know. Oh, I just love it. I love it. It's the best. It's the best. All right. Now things really get cooking because chapter 24 has a big, pretty heart in my book because it's called King Malcolm. I'm not going question by question. I'm not, I promise. But I love that chapter. I have little pictures through it. Okay, part 6. Here we go. Which honestly, I have like less to say about the second half than the first half because it's just some of it's kind of boring. That's question 3. Where's question 1? Oh, okay. Here we go. All right. So they're back together. This one's a funny one. What would be your first words to your true love after 20 years? I thought that was funny. I'm so funny.
Probably, are you real? Am I dead? Am I dreaming?
Yeah.
Oh, I love all this so much.
On the funny note, damn, you've gotten old. After 20 years.
Oh, I just love all this. He immediately, after 20 years, with no lead up, is immediately swoonier than he was when he was like 25.
Yeah.
Like, for all of his beauty and wonder when he was like virgin Jamie, who's discovering love for the first time, this hardened soldier who's been to prison and been like lived in the wilderness is immediately like, oh my God, like God has put treasure back in my hands. Like, what am I going to do with it? Gonna fuck up a few times because we all do, but it's like treasure in my hands. Like, what am I gonna do? You know, I mean, my first words would probably just be like, holy fuck. Like, that's what I would say. Let's be real. Oh my God.
I wouldn't have any swoon-worthy lines. And just
No, I would
The way
not.
he touched her and he wasn't sure if she was real.
yeah.
Oh my God, you're real.
And then he fainted.
And then he faints.
I mean, I would probably do the same
That
thing,
would be me.
so.
I'd be like,
Mhm. It's also good. And when he like tells her about Bree and everything, or she tells him about Bree and shows him the pictures,
I
and he
love
like
that.
can't hold them because he's like crying. Like, oh, I'm just done with it. It's so good. It's so good. Oh, it's so great. So, all right. What would be some deal breakers for you with Jamie? Is there anything he could be or do that you would turn away and be like, oh, I guess I gotta go back home?
well, at that point, no. I'd be like, I came all this way.
Yeah. I'll probably die on another
Yeah.
trip. I'm just gonna stay here.
Because she's like not sure, you know, if she goes back, will she end up in the time that she's supposed to? Like, at this point, you're stuck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Jamie could do anything that, you know, obviously, you know, if they were together and he's cheating on her, has a you know, I mean, we find out his secrets that he's keeping, but like, still, I'm like, he did those for like, those are like honorable things, but I don't know. Like, she came back through time.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Like, stay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why he didn't tell her everything when they were talking about it to begin with, because
So I actually this time because I wanted to be able to answer this question for myself, because there's all the reasons. There's like, when would he have time? You know, is he just gonna blurt out that he has a wife even though like he knows and that it's Leary who you know, like he knows all the things. And I found this one at the end of chapter 26. He says, I had forgotten. And she's like, forgotten what? And he's like, I forgot everything. Joy, fear, but fear most of all. I haven't been afraid in a very long time, Sassenach, but now I think I am, for there is something to be lost now. So to me, I think that's why he doesn't say.
Yeah, I think he was so scared to lose her, like, because Claire can be kind of over the top with her actions. And so he does, like, he wants them to be together. Obviously, he still needs to tell her, and he waited too long. But, like, I think he was just so scared that she would react the wrong way, because she was already feeling so, like, not, like, she was so unsure. Like, do you still want, she kept saying, like, do you want me here? Like, do you, you know, so she was very unsure and wishy-washy, like, didn't have enough confidence that, like, he wanted her there. So I think that's kind of why, but I mean, he waited too long to say anything. Wait too long.
Well, because this is true, like, he didn't have any warning, you know, and they didn't find any, they didn't find any paperwork that said he was married, but that's not always written somewhere, you know, like, there were things they couldn't find, so.
No, but she like asked him as soon as she got back, like, has there been anybody else? Because he knew that she had been with Frank because she told him that. So that would have been like a great time for him to be like, yeah, there has. There currently is.
Yeah.
But
Right.
she waited.
She tried to have you killed as a witch.
Right. Well, and I think he takes it as like, have you loved anyone else? Which is, it's like, come on, Jamie, you know what she meant. Like, she wouldn't have expected you to never have had sex with someone in 20 years, but like, did you love someone else? Because
And if
she
could have
didn't,
given the context of her being alone with 2 children, having a difficult time, him wanting to support her, that would have been a good reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. But her finding out this way, that was harsh.
I love it. I'm gonna keep pushing since we're at an hour and a half here, but it's really beautiful. So the other question is, do you think Jamie is as likable as he has been in previous books? Do you think Claire forgives him too easily for certain things? This can stand for the whole rest of the book too. This question's for you. Like him more, you said?
I liked him more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, he got over that whole like young virgin boy attitude, and now he's like, he's sure
a man.
And he's a man now. He's seen some shit. He's been through some shit. Not that he didn't go through some shit before, but he's been through more shit. He's, more confident in himself. I liked him more.
In the books, he didn't know that was the cause of it. That's right.
That's true. Yeah, I like him. I like him more. I think Jamie just always gets better. But like, I like him more, and I don't think she forgives him too easily because she can be pretty bullheaded and like
she's like literally ready to go back. Like,
like I would not have been rushing out of the. I was really annoyed with Jenny in that scene too. I was like, and I love Jenny, but I was like, stop it, stop pushing her out.
The show actually makes that easier because it doesn't feel like she's really gonna go. In the show, she's like stomping off and then Larry shows up. But in the book, like, it's been a while. Like, she left and is like going, and Ian has to like chase her down and be like, he's dying, and you're like, no, he's not. Like, no, he got shot, he's dying.
That's why I feel like he was afraid to tell her, because look at how she reacts. It's like she doesn't like. She reacts quickly.
I was like, really, Claire? Really? You are the rational one. Think it through a little bit.
That's a good one. I think Claire left hoping he was following her. That's fair. And, if he wouldn't have got shot right away, it's probably true. Okay, moving to some. We meet Ian, who is in my like third favorite man in the series. I'm adding to my list in this when we're meeting everybody. I love
Ian in general.
Oh, Ian. Everyone, current Ian in the current time we're at is my like, I love him so much. He's who I would marry in the series. I said, no, I'm just kidding. But for real, he's amazing. I love him so much. But anyway, he's just a baby right now. He's still just a baby, and he's causing some trouble. So I'm literally skipping through all the excising and stuff. I don't really care about that. If you guys do, feel free to do it in the Discord, but we're going to get to the better stuff here with all this. Because I will say that when you reread it, that's a lot of the stuff where I'm like, because I know which stuff is important by this point, right? And for me, I'm like, that stuff's not really that relevant. Jamie's still a fugitive in some way. He always is. Jamie's being Jamie. He's always going to be a rebel, blah, blah, blah. So, Ian makes Jamie punish young Ian with a strap. Jamie then turns around and makes young Ian whip him instead. Do you feel like this punishment was effective? I think it is, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely see that. Like, I think it's very effective. He takes it seriously, and he sees, the effects of his decisions and all his consequences. And I don't know. I just thought that was a really good scene with how Jamie is.
Like, young Ian is like too big to beat anymore, to have it mean something, right? Like, you reach a point where, unless you're going to like beat the shit out of your kid, which that's not their purpose. Some parents might be doing it for punishment, but they're literally trying to teach a lesson. And once your kid gets past the point of you being able to teach them a lesson, well, the way you teach them a lesson is like well, now you have to hurt someone because what you did hurt other people. So you need to hurt someone. You know, and I'm like, what he did with his men, like he does that with his men, he would do it to him. So I think it was good. But poor Ian. Okay, here we go. So Jamie tells Claire that he didn't want to tell her about Leary because he thought she would leave him. Was Jamie justified in thinking that, or should he have told her? And if so, when would have been a good time? We've been dancing around this the whole time, but when we ask it, when would have been a good time? I think he should have told him when they're on the way to Lallybroch. Like, he knew there was a risk that his nosy ass sister would do this, or one of his girls would show up when they found out he was home, because his adopted girls love him. They love him. They're gonna want to see their dad, because he's probably the best dad they've had out of all of them, right? So honestly, I think that was his chance, if there is one, which there always is. Like, to me, he should have told her when they're on the way there. I don't care there's other people or whatever. Like, everybody else knows too, you know, like his nephew knows and Fergus knows, like they all know. So to me, that was the time he should have told. Is he should have, you know, maybe not immediately said he was married to Leary, but say, hey, I'm in this arrangement. I did it for the kids. These kids needed my support, so I did this. I'm not with the mother. Like, he should have started saying that then, because she would have been upset either way, but they were like traveling there, and he could have started easing it in. And then if the surprise was just that it was Leary, which would still be a big deal, at least she like knew now there was a wife and that he had stepdaughters, so that it wouldn't have been that. So if he could have done a different thing, to me, that's what it should have been.
Yeah, I agree. Especially like with traveling, that takes a long time. You have plenty of time on that, you know, traveling home to say something.
Yep.
I feel like he should have just trusted Claire to understand the situation if he presented it in the right light.
Yep. Definitely could have done it in much shocking. Absolutely. He should have told her before they went to bed together. Oh, Karen, you're really hitting us.
But we want to get that.
You are right, ma'am. I am not disagreeing, but like, you're hitting us where it hurts.
Yeah.
But listen, if you're reading it for the first time and you get to that part where she's like, Daddy?
Right.
And you're like,
That's so good.
Oh, yeah.
His stepdaughter walking in on them making love is probably the worst case scenario. Yeah, for sure. Claire came realizing he had a life. He should have cleared up. This is true, because she was prepared for it, and he kept just saying like, no, nothing. But I do think, like I said, I do think the line of him being like, he's so afraid, because literally this has been his dream. It's been his dream for 20 years. This is practically his heaven. Like, he's been in purgatory. Like, I understand it. I also just know that, like, there's also her saying, she's like, I know who you are. You're this honorable man. And Jamie's like, well, maybe I'm not so honorable anymore. And it's like, no, you are. Just don't be a little shithead about it. Anyway, love that one. All right, moving on here. Okay, so now this is actually one of my favorite scenes. I said this. So the really intense scene where they have their fight, and then it leads almost into like angry rape. Not rape. I meant angry assault of each other. That's what somebody else said about it, and I'm like, no, it's not that. No. Is that an outdated way of writing this on Diana Gabaldon's part, or do you think this is just how their relationship is? Do you think that scene like works?
Well, the thing with the way they argue too, when they argue, they go after it hard, and they're super passionate with each other, and they are very sexual, very touchy, you know, with each other. And so I feel like it seemed realistic, and it's how they are as a couple. I love that scene, but I don't know.
I mean, I laughed at that scene.
Yeah.
Because it's just so over the top, and like
it's like soap opera-y, where like it's
it's like angry sex.
Yeah.
It is not the last, nor will it be. I mean, they did it before. She held a dagger on him once, you know, like they get kind of kinky sometimes. No, I'm just kidding. But
Claire was dramatic, so it's
it's like clear that if one of them said stop at any point, they would. So it's like it's just,
and Jamie's not hitting her. No. You know, like, she will slap him, he's calling her a bitch, and they're going, but they're not abusing each other. No, they're just fighting.
It was just the
I
heat
love,
of the moment
I
situation.
love that scene,
Mhm.
I'm
actually.
just like, yeah, she is. Call her bitch.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
We all want to call
He's
Claire a
gonna try to
bitch a
call
lot of
her.
the time.
Oh my God, I know.
Bitch, what you
He does
doing?
not let it go. He calls her that at least once a book. There's some time where he does it. So, I love it. Like, she may say the Frasers have a temper, but Claire's is there too, for sure.
Yeah.
Poor Brie has a double dose of the temper that we'll see at times. She has her mother's impulsiveness and her father's temper, and
Oh.
it's going to get her into trouble. I will just say that. They communicate deeply during sex. Yes. Her anger didn't override her side. That's absolutely true. So true. All right. So now we're moving on to part 6. Are we on? Do we do part 6 or part 7 now? We're on part 7 now. Part 8. Where am I at? Y'all, hold on. Yes. Wow. See, we are doing good. It's just the last 2 parts are the biggest ass parts of the book, so I was confused. Okay, part 8. We're getting there, everybody. Okay, I'm plowing through. So now I kind of just have some like random questions about the different events that we'll go through so then we can get to the end of this because we've gotten through the big events. So in doing this, we're going to say we have the stuff with Leary. We've touched on some of that. She goes, she comes back. They need to get money to pay her for the divorce. So he's going to go get some treasure. Young Ian gets kidnapped. Now we need to get on a boat. Okay, there we go. That's where we're at with this question that I'm about to ask. So, starting off with this one, we have some other characters that I adore. What do you think of Fergus and Marcelly? Should they have waited until she was a little bit earlier, or is this just a sign of the times?
I love Marcellus though, or Marsalis. I don't know why. Something about her just tugs at my heart.
I know. She's so great. She cuts the bullshit out, and I like that about her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When I love Fergus, like I just ever since the second book, he just holds it a little, and he just like loves Jamie so much. And so it was like I love seeing him get, the girl, and she's such a feisty, like, she ain't backing down. She wants Fergus, and she's gonna get him.
I skipped over it, but like when Fergus sees Claire for the first time, and he's like, "The lady," and she's like,
Yeah.
He's like, "It's me."
He's like a grown man now.
I know, it's so good. Yeah, he's like a 30. I know. I don't mind that they have that age gap. I love it. She is so much older, just in her head. Like, that she had a mother who was abused. She's had, she has been around good role models now, right? Like being next to the Frasers and the Murrays, like they spend time with them. She's had, in my opinion, she's a lot like Jenny. She's the Jenny we take with us. Marcelly is a Jenny. Okay, she just is. And I think I definitely see that in her. So no, I don't mind. I forget that she's so much younger than him, actually. When I read it, I forget that she's.
You can see it a bit in her reaction because she copies her mother, which gives her a way of being young.
Right.
And then Fergus tells her, "No, you're not disrespecting Jamie or Claire."
Yeah, I love that.
I love that part, and that she's like, "Sorry, Jamie, I didn't mean it." And then when they get married, like Fergus tells his name, Fergus, and then he's like, "You have another name?" And he's like, I don't know. And then Jamie says Fraser. I really love that part.
Such a good scene. Oh, it chokes me up every time. I mean, I say this, like, Fergus is his first son. Like, Fergus is his first son that he has, and I love that so much. So, of course, he needs to have the Fraser name, and I love that so much.
And
the fact that Fergus has been with him.
His own children. He's raised children. He's raised like additional children. So I think that gives him like a sense of fatherhood that he missed with Willie and Brie. And it's just so sweet.
I know. Yeah. It's so good. Really good to do. They're very good together. I love it. Okay. Here we go. Okay, and this is encapsulating a lot. So what are some of your favorite and least favorite parts while we're on the boat? Like I've kind of rounded these up together. Not including John Gray, because we'll talk about him the next question. But so what's some of your favorite and least favorite parts of the Hey Jen, hey girl.
I love
Uh,
how Claire and Jamie want to, have sex and all this, but they can't because Fergus and Marsalis can't. And so they, she wants to so bad, but she's like, those god dang kids. I love that part. And then when they finally do, it's like,
yeah.
it's freaking hilarious. And Jamie being seasick, I don't know why I find that so humorous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this big
His
man
one
that like
weakness.
can't handle it.
Yeah, it's
And
like
he's
he can
stubborn.
handle so much, but he can't
Yeah.
handle the sea.
Well, he almost dies when they're on boats, man, because he literally gets so
No.
sick he almost dies a couple times.
It's like,
It's
Claire,
awful.
get out, Claire.
Mhm.
It's like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going. Bye.
So sad. Poor guy. Let's see. My least favorite part is probably when she gets like kind of stranded again. Like I do like the warship part of it. I do actually. I think that's a super powerful time when she goes over to the warship to help, but I don't love that like for her to get away, she has to like go on the soup like I don't like when we're lost on the place or whatever. It's just so weird. But that is when we get the Jamie POV is when she's like gone and we see what he does. And like now he's been like a privateer, he's been a smuggler, like he's just done all the stuff. I just love it so much. And when he like breaks in to get her, she's already gone because she got away. Like, so I like that part of it, but I don't like that we have that added in. There's just so much that happens. I've skipped over, like I don't really care for a lot of the Willoughby stuff they put in for that. I didn't even put a question in about that because I'm like, it just is a lot. So
yeah, her whole like leaving the ship and going off with like those weird people, just like, where is this going? Like it just felt like, I don't know, filler a little bit.
It felt to me like Claire bringing trouble for Jamie again because the captain had to log his name in the book, and they had to show it at the harbor, so Jamie would get in trouble again because of his name being written in the book. I was like, Claire, you're at it again. Just say no. Just stop it. Just stay with Jamie. Don't be stubborn.
Yeah. One of the good things on the ship, though, is she meets Lord John Grey, and now it's been like 10 years or so. How long has it been? It's been a long time. I think it's been like 10 years or so. And I love their interactions before they know who each other is, before either of them can be jealous. It always is funny to me that Claire will be jealous. Because, I mean, I know she's jealous of the fact that he raised the kid, not that he's, he's not worried about any other kind of jealousy. But I like their interactions before they know, because she likes him. It is like, oh, this guy, like they get along so well. Yeah. Oh, Claire and Lord John Grey. I really wonder what they're going to do in the TV show for a certain part, if you know what I'm talking about, Becky. I am honestly looking forward to that if they actually do what's in the book. But anyway, love Lord John Grey. So yeah. And it's good to have friends in powerful places. This is also not the first time that Lord John Grey will help us out. He will do it pretty much every book. We need Lord John Grey to do something for us. And he definitely does because he loves Jamie. So it's important. All right. And then we mentioned it already, the marriage of Fergus and Marcelly, how much it meant that he gave Fergus his name. It was really beautiful. So I'm surprised he hadn't by now, is kind of the thing too.
Yeah.
So I love the interactions, but I have a problem with LJ. Oh, you do? Uh-oh. You'll have to tell it. Well, or do you mean the that you think he moons too much? You told us that you think he moons too much. But that's all right. Okay, on to part 9. So that's all of our village stuff. Just so much fun. Question 1. Here we go. So we arrive in Jamaica. Things are getting kind of weird. So what did I mean by this? Uh-oh. Oh, okay, that's not even important. That was a random one. I was like, what does that even mean? See, some of these questions make sense to me when I see it. Okay, because I have another question about John Grey then. Here we go. So Claire sees Jamie and Lord John in an embrace, and it shocks her when she sees the desire on Lord John Grey's face. Do you think Claire really thought that Jamie would have been in a relationship with him at any point, or what does she assume that's going on? So
I think she's just kind of possessive over Jamie. Like, I don't think she would think that he would be into that in any way, or like feels threatened maybe, but like she doesn't like seeing another man, wanting him again,
Also, like seeing anybody want him.
yeah.
She does doubt him though, because he tells her about the guys in the prison that get desperate, so they take on other men. And she's like, oh my god, the desire on his face. Have they lain together? That's her first thought about.
And like how connect, like they actually like not just like, but their embrace looked like emotional, like that they have this connection. So I think she's kind of like, what the heck? Who is this guy? And they obviously have a deeper connection than just, what you would assume.
Yeah.
And then after it took her so long to learn about his wife, like, would she be?
Yeah.
Is there something else he isn't telling me?
Yeah. Well,
yeah, but then
he
tells her about Willie, and for her the dots get connected. Like, oh, that's why.
But he kept another secret.
Yeah, like, a big one.
A really big one. And I do think this, okay, so of all of them, though, I actually do think that this one is kind of forgivable, because I believe, too, that he hasn't seen John since he left. Like, he has not seen him since he left Hellwater. So I feel like it's not that he would forget Willie, but I think he's just kind of been like, I'm not that kid's dad. Like, he's taking care of, like he's kind of just put it aside. So it's not that I think he's forgot his kid, but to me, that's a bit more believable that he wouldn't have mentioned that. Also because, like, she was going to find out about Leary. Like, she was going to find out about that. They might have never, ever run into Lord John Grey, and his son would have, he never would have seen him or anything, right? So I think with that one, that's something he would have got around to telling her. Whereas, like, he needed to tell her about Leary. Like, he should have done that. So that's how I feel.
But everybody knew about Leary, and nobody in his family knew about Willie. That's also the difference.
Right. So that's something else the show does that I don't really like. So the show actually immediately, like, she shows him pictures of Bree, and he's like, oh, look, I have a son. I didn't get to raise him here yet. Like, immediately does that. And it's like, I don't know. They're like trying to fix a wrong they think that there is. And I'm like, no, but that one's okay. Like, the big secret. I don't know. Also, it's not a secret that she should be as upset about, because, like, I don't know. I just don't like it. I'm not a huge fan. Okay. Okay, I already read that. Oh, I said, like, I had asked, like, because Lord John gives him the portrait of him. Otherwise, he would have never even, like, known what he looked like or anything either. So, okay. So we'll do one question about this part too. So there's a bizarre ceremony that Margaret Campbell does, and she channels other people. At one point, Claire hears Brianna's voice coming from her. Do you think that was really Brianna? What do you think was happening there?
The way she said mommy and daddy?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it was her. I just, maybe some other entity that took over Margaret. Didn't feel really like she would be saying that right away to Jamie.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah,
I think so. This is a fantasy story. Like, I do like this. There is magic here, and my thing of it is the place where they're at is just a very, like, mystical place, and there's a lot of, in my opinion, that's why Galis has, like, set herself up here as well. Is like she knows that there is a lot of, like, magic to be harnessed here. I don't fully know if Margaret is just a seer, if she's just like a clairvoyant, or what's going on, but I don't know. I think it is kind of a warning that's happening, but I don't know.
Yeah.
just gave me
I don't know.
Exorcist vibes.
Part of me like believed it, but you're right with like the whole daddy thing because she called Frank daddy. That kind of threw me off a little bit, but I don't know. I just was kind of like hoping it was so that she's kind of giving that message about, you know, Jamie and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't have any other of the questions, but to kind of like round this off too, like we can discuss some parts of that like ending if anybody has like questions about it or stuff. Because I didn't reread it, I don't have a lot of detailed stuff. I didn't want to just start talking about it because I don't remember it perfectly clearly. But we should mention, like, yes, we do find Galus again. Yes, she's the one who took Ian. I kind of dropped this talking about Ian, and she has been sacrificing like virgin boys to try to like do dark
She's
magic.
so
She's so crazy.
She's so crazy.
And like she's just crazy as fuck, man. She's a batshit crazy person, and I do think it's a kind of interesting like juxtaposition because through this series we will see certain people who time travel for purpose and like what that does to them. Whereas like we have Claire who it was very first an accident and was just like, I didn't come here to try to fuck with time. I just like this happened to me. And like Galus particularly is just so like she has it's like her intentions may have started out pure at the beginning at the very I mean they weren't because she murdered people, but like her thought of like this is a just cause, I'll make sacrifices for it to happen. You know, and then there was the prophecy that like does lead to Bree if you word it a certain way, you know, it does seem like it means her, but I don't know, the whole thing's just creepy to me. And I feel like I don't know, I feel like Claire doesn't take it serious enough as maybe we should. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole creepy scene. Just well, and then like how she can't like she's just astounded with like the way Claire has been able to do it like a couple times and did it by accident. She wasn't murdering anybody or using stones or this or that. And so she was like really fascinated with like Claire, like how did you do this? And then gets way too focused in on Bree, which is scary. So she's just so freaking weird. Like she is crazy.
Yeah. So I have a theory that has never been proven, so this isn't a spoiler. This is my own personal theory of like why Claire is able to do it. Like I know there's theories and they'll try to write like a time traveler's guide will eventually start being put together, a type of thing. But I think number one, like the very first time it was right after one of the rituals had been done. So it's like extra juiced up, in my opinion. I think it's easier to do the traveling on the different times of the year. But I also think there might be something to be said of like, if you have more time traveler blood than other people, you know, because I think that like, I don't know, I feel like traveling is less taxing on the body for some people than it is for others, which I know you guys have only really seen Claire and Galus who did it, but I think some people do have to try more to do it. And they're, you know, maybe if you don't have the natural inclination, you can force it more than other people. That's never been proved. That's a theory, by the way. Like nobody said
And
that.
maybe if you don't have the blood, that was what I was thinking this, because Galus just basically looks crazy. She goes cuckoo and she starts murdering more and more people because she doesn't have that in her. She starts to go this way. She unravels because her body can't handle it. That was my thinking during reading this.
Doesn't she also have like syphilis though?
Yeah, which also goes dementia, like
yeah. But you could be right too. I'm not discounting. That's a very interesting thought
but
too.
Wasn't Claire like speculating because she didn't know for sure if she had syphilis, but that was her theory.
Right. Well, because if she did have syphilis, Ian would be toast if she did, because there's no cure for it. So, you know, she's raping the poor guy.
Did she lose that during the whole thing?
I think she had some left to use on him. Did she still use some on him?
Yeah, I think she did, like near the end.
Mm-hmm. She still had a little bit left. But I don't think that, like, well, can that stop it if you're not full? Like, I don't know. I've read different things on syphilis over the years, so I have no idea. I'll have to look it up or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's because it was
Penicillin
early
can't cure
enough.
it.
Right. Also, I think if it hasn't like fully set into you, you know, he
Mhm.
wouldn't have had it for a long time. But yeah, poor Ian. We get Ian back, and
Poor
yes,
kid.
she used the rest of it. Yes, we get him back, and now we're trying to go home, and then we have a final big dust up. We have the shipwreck, and we end up in the United States. And that is where we end this off. And I love the last line where Jamie's like, "Where are we?" And they tell him where he is, and he's able to say his name, his real name, for the first time in this entire book. And I love that. It's such a beautiful moment where he gets to say who he is. He's like, "This is my wife. This is me. And we get to say who we are." So
I love that.
It's very powerful. Mm-hmm. Very powerful. So yeah, that was, I so sorry. We still made it to 2 hours, but y'all are still here with me. You're amazing.
I don't know how you would talk about these books in under 2 hours.
I know.
Yeah, they're so long.
They're a lot, and they only get longer.
I know. I just feel bad. Because I try to do it faster, but I was like, I didn't even go beat by beat, and we're still here. So unless we didn't talk about it at all. And I feel like I skipped step 2. But the point is like, we're not analyzing it. We're enjoying it and talking. I have to tell myself this because it hurts me. But yeah, was there anything, those of you watching too, was there anything you wanted to mention that I didn't talk about? I know I did skip a lot. So if there's anything you wanted to bring up, we'll do that. Otherwise, we will get this wrapped up. I know it's very late for Steph. So I believe
It's
Margaret
okay.
channels entities.
I'm doing good.
I know. I still want to respect you getting sleep. So it's a good point. She used the rest of that. Yes, we got that. Nobody knows anything for sure. It's all just hypothetical for now. Oh yes, about the Harlan. Yeah, we're here for long. Well, thanks, Lisa. I appreciate it. I mean, y'all kind of knew what you were in for with me to begin with, anyway. But I'm just trying to do better. But yeah, this overall is. I didn't finish this one yet. You're behind.
Man.
Reading machine. Okay. Well, Jen, I maybe you didn't see this too, so I'll remind everyone. The next one will be 2 months away, so you definitely will have time to finish this one. I have to finish it too. I'm not done, and I want to. That's why I'm being kind of vague about the ending part. I need to reread some of this. I know I took tons of notes when I did it, so it'll probably help me remember. Because when I did notes, I was looking forward to so that I could be like, oh, this will get mentioned in book 6. Like I did that for myself. So I have a lot of notes in there, but I didn't go back over.
Do you do like a color key, like when you annotate your Outlander? Okay. I'm always like wonder, like when I see people do those, I'm like, how do you do that for the entire book?
This you can't see. I just used one thing of note, and I just used them all for each. So I tried to do color coded for Dragonfly and Amber was the one I tried to do it. And you'll maybe see this when I reread this. I didn't mark down what the colors were because it was the first time I tried to do that. So when we were rereading, I was like, what do these mean? I still don't know what the yellow meant. Like I figured out every other color, but I don't know what yellow meant. So I just didn't. I just take notes as I go. Yeah. I don't do the color key that some people do, which I respect, man. I respect that. But no, I just literally have a sticky pad and I used all the purple and then I used all the pink and then I used all the green. Like that's how I used all the blue. That's what I did. I just used stuff like that. So
I think that'd be really hard.
Yeah, because for me, again, part of the reason why is like when I annotate, right? I annotate like it's a conversation. So I'm leaving myself notes for the future, or if it's going to be one, Amber knows this. If it's one that I'm sending to you, it's like you're reading the book with me. That's what I do for myself too. It's like I'm reading the book for myself, and I'm like, so often I'll be reading and I'll be like, oh, fuck that. And I'll look down and then it says, oh, fuck that. And I'm like, I was remembering what I'm thinking. So it's fun to read with myself. But no, I don't do anything too fancy. In some of the later ones, I put markers for like, if there was an important death, I'll put a flag, or a time travel event, I'll do that so that I know when stuff stands out. But otherwise, no. I just enjoy myself and mark it on. Good, some extra time. You want to read the Lord John series? Oh yeah, that's a good point. Good stuff, man. This world is just chef's kiss. I know, it's so good. I hope everyone who's like reading these, that's what you feel like, because this series is a pain in the ass if you don't love it. Like if you're up to this point and you're not like liking it, like just don't force yourself, man. I mean, because there's action in every book. There's fun stuff and crazy stuff in everyone, but there's also just a lot of time with the character. So if you don't jive with Claire, if you don't like Jamie, who does? But if you don't like these people, like you're kind of fucked, because that's what you're going to be doing for the next, 6 books that we're doing, is you're spending time with them. So, and for me, I just love spending time with them so much. So I just have a great time with it. But yes, the next one will be July 20th, same time, 5 p.m. Central. So you'll have plenty of time. You have 2 months to get through
Yeah, I'll
them.
probably
We'll see if
be procrastinating and still read it in the last week, because that's me. I'm bad with
I know, me
deadlines.
too.
I forgot a lot about what happens in Drums of Autumn. So it'll be like reading it for the first time again.
Yeah. I do actually own Dragonfly and Amber audiobook, so I think I will do my audiobook for that. Like I purchased it back when. So I'll probably do the audiobook this time because I'll get through it faster. I really like the narrator.
I think I saw like they might be not going off of Audible Plus now, because it was on Audible Plus, and I think it was like not going to be on there. At least I think the current one that I was reading. So I was like, oh no, we'll probably just end up using credits on this.
Yeah. Well, they are all on any place. So even if no one has it, like you literally could get it for one, like you could get them all on there. So
I just wish Anyplay could go faster speed,
Sure. I mean, they're up to 2 now. I don't need faster than 2, but some people.
Oh, they are. I thought we were still at 1.75.
Yeah, one of the last updates did push it up to 2.
Oh, cool.
So, but that is as fast as it goes. For some people, that's not enough. But I've said this before. I've purposely kept my reading speed right at below 2, because I was like, I don't want to listen faster and then think it's too slow one day.
I can't take a book seriously if it's like on speed 2. It's
It depends on what's happening in the book for me, and then I'll up the speed just to get through it. But then I got to slow it down when there's a scene that I'm like, oh, I really want to take this in.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna wrap this up. Thanks everybody for sticking it out with me. Y'all are amazing, and we'll see you in a couple months and at other stuff we're doing too. But yeah, this was great. So have a wonderful night, everybody.